Hello, comrades. Welcome to Beyond Belief. This channel explores exciting and unusual topics such as urban myths and ancient legends, hidden and untold history, incredible true stories, and the paranormal. This is the first episode on the channel, and we are looking at terrifying but true horror stories, all of which were reported on the news. The story, The Death of Elisa Lam, uses 3 images that were captured from real footage. All other images are for illustrative purposes only and in no way resemble the people or places from the stories. Okay, let's get started. A deadly exorcism. In August 2016, in North London, 26-year-old Kennedy Ife began acting strange and aggressive following a pain in his throat. He reportedly bit his father, threatened to cut off his own genitals, and complained of a python or snake inside of him before his family restrained him to a bed with cable ties and excessive force, as the BBC reported. The family then set about attempting to cure Kennedy through restraint and prayer over the next 3 days, the court was told. His brother, Colin Ife, told police, "It's clear that thing was in him. What we believed was a demon because it was not natural. It was clearly trying to kill him," he said. "We had to restrain him for himself. It was clear if we didn't restrain him, he could have tried to harm people in our family." Kennedy Ife had been bound to his bed for 3 days without medical attention when his brother called emergency services, explaining that Kennedy Ife was complaining of dehydration. He appeared to have developed breathing issues and was pronounced dead at 10:17 a.m., as the Independent reported. While police were at the house, Colin Ife allegedly carried out an attempted resurrection by chanting and praying for Mr. Ife. All 7 of Kennedy Ife's family members were accused of manslaughter, false imprisonment, and causing or allowing the death of a vulnerable adult. A post-mortem examination revealed over 60 wounds, including a possible bite on Kennedy Ife's body, and his father, Kenneth Ife, along with 4 of his brothers, sustained injuries as well, the BBC reported. Kenneth Ife told jurors he ordered his sons to take shifts and use overwhelming force, but denied that an association with cults, occults, and secret societies played any part in the death. After a 4-day jury deliberation, all 7 family members were cleared of charges on March 14, 2019. Wow, that's quite interesting. North London's just across the river from where I'm from. I'm from Southeast, so that's quite close to home. Anyway, let's move on. What's next? Issei, the cannibal. In 1974, 24-year-old Wako University student Issei Sagawa allegedly followed a German woman to her home in Tokyo, Japan, broke into her apartment while she was sleeping and attempted to cut a piece of flesh off her body to consume. When she awoke, she reportedly fought him, and he was later captured by the police. According to a 2012 Vice documentary that covered Issei's bizarre story, he was mistakenly charged with attempted rape, and his wealthy father paid the victim a settlement outside of court to have the charges dropped. Oh yeah, that sounds a bit suspect, doesn't it? Wealthy dad paying off his son's craziness. Okay, anyway. 7 years later, in 1981, he allegedly committed a murder in France, shooting and eating a fellow university student, Renee Hartevelt. Issei creepily documented the entire experience with photographs, and he was captured by authorities once again while attempting to dump the rest of her body in the Bois de Boulogne lake. He was deported back to Japan and committed to a mental institution. For a reason unknown, his psychologists in Japan declared that he was sane. Furthermore, a legal technicality involving the French government refusing to turn over the documents from his case meant that his murder charges were dropped completely. For reasons unknown, come on, his dad's already paid him off once, he's probably done it again. But this is just an opinion, not a fact. But come on, guys, think about it. Anyway, he checked himself out of the mental hospital and has reportedly been walking the streets as a free man ever since. Issei has even become a controversial celebrity, writing over 20 books. According to Japan Today, he most recently fantasized about an unnamed TV actress, saying, "I'll catch a glimpse of her thigh and think, that sure looks tasty, but I don't feel like I actually want to eat it, as I accomplished the act of cannibalism once. There's no meaning to maintaining the desire for it anymore. In my book, I wrote that it, human flesh, was tasty, but that was not really true. I'd much rather eat matsusaka, Kobe beef. But because I desired to consume human flesh for so long, I'd managed to convince myself that it would necessarily be delicious." Issei Sagawa was also referenced in the Rolling Stones song "Too Much Blood," with the lyrics reading, "And when he ate her, he took her bones to the Bois de Boulogne." He is currently 73 years old and continues to live in Kawasaki City, Japan. To this day, no one knows why France did not allow Japan to give him a trial. No one knows? Come on. The guy's got a rich bloody dad who pays off everything when he gets in trouble, sounds like. Anyway, again, that's just an opinion. What's next? The death of Elise Salam. Now, this is the one that's got 3 images from real footage, so watch out for that, guys. The death of Elise Salam. Elise Salam was last seen on January 31, 2013 in the lobby of the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She was vacationing through the West Coast, documenting the trip on her blog and checking in with her parents every day. On January 31, those calls stopped. Lam had vanished. Soon, the police were involved and her parents arrived to help with the search. They had nothing. That February, LAPD released elevator surveillance footage of Lam before her disappearance. The footage shows Lam behaving strangely in the elevator, appearing to talk with invisible people, peering around the corner of the door, crouching in the corner, and opening and closing the door. But what exactly is going on in this video raises more questions than answers. Theories range from psychotic episodes to demonic possession to unknown assailants just out of the camera's view. Around that time, hotel guests had started reporting weird things happening with the Cecil Hotel water supply, as CNN reports. The shower was awful, said Sabina Boff, who spent 8 days there during the investigation. When you turn the tap on, the water was coming black at first for 2 seconds, and then it was going back to normal. The tap water tasted horrible, Buff said. It had a very funny, sweety, not sure if that should say sweaty, but sweety, disgusting taste. It's a very strange taste. I can barely describe it, she said. But for a week, they never complained. We never thought anything of it, she said. We thought it was just the way it was here. On the morning of February 19, a hotel employee climbed to the roof and used a ladder to investigate the hotel's water storage tanks. That's where authorities found the decomposing naked body of Lam, whose personal items were found nearby. After an autopsy, her death was labeled accidental, NBC Los Angeles reported at the time about the strange circumstances in the hotel's past. The tank has a metal latch that can be opened, but authorities said access to the roof is secured with an alarm and a lock. The single-room occupancy hotel has an unusual history. Night Stalker Richard Ramirez, who was found guilty of 14 slayings in the 1980s, lived on the 14th floor for several months in 1985. And international serial killer Jack Underweger is suspected of murdering 3 prostitutes during the time he lived there in 1991. He killed himself in jail in 1994. In 1962, a female occupant jumped out of one of the hotel's windows, killing herself and the pedestrian on whom she landed. In February 2001, a Netflix documentary called Crime Scene: The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel explored Elisa's tragic case and the history of the cursed Cecil Hotel. Wow, that's nuts. Can you imagine drinking water for 8 days in a hotel and thinking, oh, this tastes a bit funny, and then finding out that there's a decomposing body in the water tank you've been drinking from? Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. That's rotten, but come on, guys. That's just nuts. Right, what's next? Utah murder-suicide. In September of 2014, a Utah teen returned to his home to find his parents and 3 siblings dead. In a notebook, a to-do list had been scribbled on the pages. The list looked as if the parents were readying to go on vacation. Items such as feed the pets and find someone to watch after the house were written, the Salt Lake Tribune reported. It appeared to be a murder-suicide, but there was no suicide note, no prior indication that they would do this, and no explanation. Police could not figure out why 2 parents would kill themselves and 3 of their 4 children. Yeah, that's nuts. Imagine being that 4th kid coming back and oh, it's crazy. Okay, back to the story. For a year, no one knew exactly what happened to the family or what would drive parents to do something so unthinkable. In January, police released more chilling details in the case. According to accounts from family members and an investigation by police, the parents were driven by a belief that the apocalypse was coming and an obsession with a convicted killer, as the Washington Post reported. Friends and family told police that the parents were worried about the evil in the world and wanted to escape a pending apocalypse. But most assumed they just wanted to move somewhere off the grid. Investigators also found letters written by Christy Sack, the mother, to one of the state's most infamous convicted killers, Dan Lafferty, who was convicted in the 1984 fatal stabbing of his sister-in-law and her 1-year-old daughter. According to trial testimony, he killed the victims at the order of his brother, Ron Lafferty, who claimed to have had a revelation from God. The story became a book called Under the Banner of Heaven. Police said Christy Strack became friends with Dan Lafferty, and she and her husband even visited him in prison. The Axe Murder House. The Villisca Axe Murder House in Villisca, Iowa, is a well-known tourist attraction for ghost hunters and horror lovers alike. The site of a gruesome unsolved 1912 murder in which 6 children and 2 adults had their skulls completely crushed by the axe of an unknown perpetrator was purchased in 1994, restored to its 1912 condition, and converted into a tourist destination. It costs $428 a night to stay at the Old Haunted Home, where visitors always report strange paranormal experiences, such as visions of a man with an axe roaming the halls, or the faint screams of children. But in November of 2014, the haunting took a darker turn. Robert Stephen Larson Jr., 37, of Rhinelander, Wisconsin, was on a regular recreational paranormal visit with friends when true horror struck. His companions found him stabbed in the chest, an apparently self-inflicted wound. They called 911, and Larson was brought to a nearby hospital before being helicoptered to Creighton University Medical Center in Omaha. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office said Larson suffered the self-inflicted injury at about 12:45 a.m., which is around the same time the 1912 axe murders in the house began. Wow. Larson recovered from his injuries, but never spoke publicly about what occurred that day. For Martha Lynn, the owner of the home, the incident was very upsetting. It's publicity, but it's not exactly the kind of publicity you desire to have. I don't want people thinking that when they come to the Villisca Axe Murder House, something's going to happen that's going to make them do something like that. The house remains open for tourist visits and overnight stays today. Whoa. I think I'd maybe go and have a look at the house, but I'm not sure about staying in there. That's a bit out there. Yeah, maybe just pop by, have a cup of tea, and then and then get out of there. All right, what's next? The haunted doll. When you think of haunted dolls, it's likely the creepy old Victorian looking porcelain kind that springs to mind, none of which you would probably have laying around. Still, don't get too comfortable around any kids' toys too soon. A Disney's Frozen Elsa doll that was gifted for Christmas in 2013 in the Houston area made headlines when it seemingly became haunted, per KPRC2 Houston News. The doll recited phrases from the movie Frozen and sang "Let It Go" when a button on the necklace was pressed. For 2 years, it did that in English, Mother Emily Madonia said. In 2015, it started doing it alternating between Spanish and English. There wasn't a button that changed these, it was just random. The family has owned the doll for more than 6 years and never changed its batteries. The mother says the doll would randomly begin to speak and sing even with its switch turned off. The family decided to throw the creepy doll out in December of 2019. Weeks later, they found it inside a bench in their living room. The kids insisted they didn't put it there, and I believe them because they wouldn't have dug through the garbage outside, Madonia told KPRC2 Houston News. At that point, Elsa ceased to sing in English. At that point, Elsa ceased to sing the English rendition of Let It Go altogether, speaking only in Spanish when pressed. The family then double-bagged the bizarre doll and placed it at the bottom of their garbage, which was taken out on garbage day. They went on a trip shortly after. But when they returned, Elsa too had come back and was waiting in the backyard of their home. Oh, come on, someone's surely messing with them with this. This time, the family mailed Elsa to a family friend in Minnesota who taped the haunted doll to the front bumper of his truck. It doesn't seem to have made its way back to Houston yet, as per Madonia's latest February Facebook update on the creepy doll. Yeah, of course it ain't going to make its way back strapped to the front bumper of a truck. Oh, gosh. Right. Interesting, though. And yeah, it's true. Whenever you think of those creepy haunted dolls, apart from that Chucky movie, you do think of those sort of old Victorian type porcelain dolls where the eyes flip open and that. They are really creepy. Okay. Dead animals in the walls. Excuse me just while I have a sip of my drink, please. Thank you. Dead animals in the walls. When the Bretzus family decided to insulate their home in Auburn, Pennsylvania in 2015, they discovered that it had already been insulated with scores of dead animal carcasses, a Fox reported. The dead animals were wrapped in newspapers from the 1930s and 40s and were among half-used spices and other items. After removing the items, they sent hundreds of artifacts and carcasses to an expert in Kutztown. The experts attributed the rotting animals in their walls to powwow or Dutch magic, a ritual originating in the culture of the Pennsylvania Dutch to treat ailments and gain physical and spiritual protection. The Pennsylvania Dutch were a group of German-speaking settlers to Pennsylvania in the 1600s and 1700s, and are often of Lutheran, Mennonite, or Amish faiths, the Washington Post notes on the magic. Many of the spells deal with the care of livestock, finding water, or the treatment of minor ailments, reflecting the conditions and concerns of early American settlers. But powwow also has within it a tradition of darker spells and even of such things as conjuring demons. One notable ritual in their tradition is hex, to create loyalty in a dog. To attach a dog to a person, provided nothing else was used before to affect it, try to draw some of your blood and let the dog eat it with its food, and he will stay with you always. Come on, you don't have to do that to get a dog to follow you around. You just got to feed it. Why are you cutting yourself open? Crazy. Anyway, the mold found on the rotting carcasses in the Bretzus home has caused illness among the family members, and they say the odor hasn't gone away. Yeah, I'm not surprised. You cut open your wall and there's a load of dead animals and spices in there. It's going to take bloody years to get that. Anyway, right. What do we have next? Florida, devil worshipping. Friends noticed that Danielle Harkins, a 35-year-old school teacher near St. Petersburg, Florida, started acting strangely in June of 2012, developing an interest in demonic rituals. Soon after, she was arrested for abuse of 7 of her former students, as the Tampa Bay Times reported. Danielle Harkins told the kids they needed to rid their bodies of demons as the group gathered before dusk one Saturday around a small campfire near the St. Petersburg Pier. They should cut their skin to let the evil spirits out, police said she told the children. Gosh. Then they needed to burn the wounds to ensure that those spirits would not return. When Harkins held a lighter to one teen's hand, wind blew the flame out, police said. That prompted her to douse his hand in perfume before setting it on fire. The boy suffered second-degree burns, police said. Another teen was cut on the neck with a broken bottle, police said. Harkins used a flame to heat a small key, which she then used to cauterize the wound. The police were notified because a friend of one of the students who participated in a ritual raised alarms. However, none of the students themselves told their parents about the event or would comment following the arrest of Harkins for aggravated battery and child abuse, NBC reported. Investigators said they've spoken to Harkins, but she didn't spell out what type of religion would require such drastic measures. She hasn't informed us exactly what she was trying to accomplish with this. Peters of the St. Petersburg police said, wow, she sounds nuts. My teachers were all quite cool. None of them tried to cut me open and then burn the demons out. Anyway, right, what's next? An exorcism in Indianapolis. In 2014, the Indianapolis Star published a lengthy report on a family terrorized by 3 children allegedly possessed by demons. The account of Latoya Ammons and her family tells disturbing stories of children climbing up the walls, getting thrown across rooms, and children threatening doctors in deep, unnatural voices. It would seem like something straight out of a movie, a work of fantasy, except all of these accounts were more or less corroborated with nearly 800 pages of official records obtained by the Indianapolis Star and recounted in more than a dozen interviews with police, DCS personnel, psychologists, family members, and a Catholic priest. One of the more chilling sections of the report includes a segment about the possessed 9-year-old. According to Washington's original DCS report, an account corroborated by Walker, the nurse, the 9-year-old had a weird grin and walked backward up the wall to the ceiling. He then flipped over Campbell, landing on his feet, and he never let go of his grandmother's hand. Another segment of the piece reads, the 12-year-old would tell her mental health professionals that she sometimes felt as if she were being choked and held down so she couldn't speak or move. She said she heard a voice say she'd never see her family again and wouldn't live another 20 minutes. Oh my God, that's nuts. Maybe these kids should have gone to that teacher's class in the last story where she's cutting them open and trying to burn the demons out. They'd have fit right in. That's nuts. Okay, what we got next? The Phone Stalker. In 2007, ABC News documented a series of cell phone calls to families with terrifyingly specific death threats. The unidentified callers knew exactly what families were doing and what they were wearing. The families say the calls come in at all hours of the night, threatening to kill their children, their pets, and grandparents. Voicemails arrive playing recordings of their private conversations, including one with a local police detective. The family said that the caller knows what they're wearing and what they're doing. And after months of investigation, police seemed powerless to stop them. This went on with the Kukenel family for months, who reported a caller with a scratchy voice threatening to slit their throats. When the Faircrest, Washington police tried to find the culprit, the calls were traced back to the Kukendel's own phones, even when they were switched off. It got worse. The Kukendals and 2 other Faircrest families told ABC News that they believe the callers were using their cell phones to spy on them. They say the hackers know their very move, where they are, what they're doing, and what they're wearing. Wow, that's scary. Right. I do apologise for the 2 or 3 mistakes I made during that. It is my first time. I hope you enjoyed the stories. I found them very interesting. And to be honest, I had no idea that there were so many real life horror stories out there. And these were only a few that I chose to read. There are even more. Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to believe what some people have been through. It's almost beyond belief. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll be doing more of these videos. I think I really enjoyed this one, and I hope you did too. And yeah, I'll be exploring a whole wide range of topics. So hopefully I'll be keeping things fresh each time. Won't just be sticking to one subject. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then just please like, subscribe, turn on notifications if you're on YouTube. And yeah, it's been good.